Hey everyone, it's Tasha here from Namastasha, and today I wanted to talk about this paper that I had actually written for my kinesiology degree. So we got to pick our topics sort of out of a list, and um, the topic that I chose was about chronic disease in the public sector. So the reason that I picked this, I mean, obviously for people who've been following me on my channel know that I've been dealing with a multitude of health issues for the past year and a half. And most of these conditions are kind of like these like no cause, no cure type stuff that, the medical system just doesn't believe. There's a lot of people that just don't believe that disease can be reversed and that once you have it, like you're stuck with it for the rest of your life type thing. So for this paper, like I had to do a lot of research. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I already knew, but I needed to be able to back up what I was saying. So I ended up having to write this 30-page paper, and I only got to make like a 30-minute presentation on it, which I really felt like wasn't enough to really cover what I had found out, what's really like kind of going on, and being able to talk about this in depth. Um, so this is for a current issues class. So what my issue statement was for chronic disease in the public sector is that what we really have going on is a sickness care system rather than a healthcare system. So even here in Canada, like people are like, "Oh, you guys have free healthcare," but really, when you look at it, like we basically have our medical doctors. Like those appointments are paid for by the government and maybe some hospital visits and stuff, but that's about it. Like when it comes to more in-depth stuffs like prescription medications, like you're paying out of pocket unless you have some insurance to cover it, but then you're also paying for that. And for a lot of people, either like they can't even afford the insurance to get coverage for these things, or they can't afford the medications, or any other type of um, health option. So like people are just aren't even aware of the other health options out there. Um, so what do we like? What is the problem here within the system is that there's such a reliability on medical doctors to have the answer for us. Everyone, like in one of the groups that I'm in on Facebook, there's so many people in there that are like this victim. They're like waiting for the doctors to figure it out, and the truth is that they don't really know. Like everything that is going on in the medical system for conventional medicine, like a lot of it is just theories. Like that's all that they have. I mean, that is science, is theories, and until proven wrong, that's what they consider this to be, right? So, um, it's just we have to stop putting all of our eggs in one basket and trusting that they're the ones that are gonna always figure it out for us. Like we have to keep our mind and our eyes peeled. Like we just need to keep our mind open for other options out there that can be beneficial for us and healing for us. And that's not to say too though that some medical doctors don't know what they're talking about or don't know what they're doing. There's a lot of medical doctors that don't just push pills, but I mean, what their degree is for is they're trained in medicine. So they know how to prescribe the pills for the symptoms that you're talking about. But, a lot of doctors just, I mean, they just don't give the time, have the time. Some people don't care. And I mean, you can find that within each and every, like, health profession, honestly. Like, you can get nurses that don't give a shit. Or maybe they're just having a bad day. Like, they're human too. So, you kind of have to take things with a grain of salt, and that's why I like personally I like to go to multiple people for different opinions, and I do try to go for more positive health practitioners now that actually like have the goal of healing or believe that disease isn't permanent. So that's not something we just have to manage all the time. So again, like this, even the topic that I picked, was chronic disease management in the chronic or the public sector, and it's like why isn't there, why aren't we talking about prevention? Why aren't we talking about healing of the chronic disease, right? Like, what can we do about that? So even in the word itself, it's just like, okay, we're handling things, I guess, and then trying to make things just a little bit better, but not really getting to the root of what's going on. So, and then there's an issue of education. So, a lot of people just aren't educated on, I mean, in general, but in different health issues and stuff like that. So, or on ways to be healthy. So, like for myself, I'm in the faculty of kinesiology. So, um, I'm learning about physical activity all the time, the health benefits of being physically active and promoting that and stuff like that. But, you know, even within our own faculty, I mean, we do teach about like a little bit about holistic wellness and stuff, but I mean, the main focus is just that. But because of that, like my faculty in particular has an interest in health in other directions and stuff too. So, people within that faculty maybe are more inclined to learn about it themselves. But people in university could be getting an education in business. They can be getting an education in architecture. They could be getting, you know, like all these different degrees that have nothing to do with health. And that's not saying that that education's bad or anything. It's just saying that that there isn't even this like foundation in our education system to learn about what good foods to eat, how to manage stress. Like why are we having to pay for these services even, right? Why aren't we integrating this into people's lives to have people be more whole and well and healthy? Because, I mean, even for example, I was working this weekend at the Divine Clarity here in Winnipeg, and there was this lady, and we were doing an aura and chakra report with her. And I talked to her because she had a low throat chakra, which just tells us that it can mean a number of things. But for her, what a trigger was that she wasn't able to speak her mind about something, and it just like she just like broke down in tears, and she was so upset because, you know, she has so much physical stuff going on with her, and she comes for spiritual healing, but she can't afford to, like, she finds it helpful, but she can't afford to do those services all the time because some of these services are like $100 and stuff, and you know, people just can't afford that. And I'm in my head, I'm thinking, why is this not something that like can be funded, you know, something that can help people, you know? Yeah, so that's the issue of kind of like with education on things. I kind of went off on a little tangent there. Um, Another issue is funding. Like again, I mentioned that in that example that I gave is that people, like, it's just not funded by like the money's again just going into the sickness care system where we're taking care of people when they're, you know, are so low and down and not doing good. And you know, what is that from? Is it, you know, because the doctors neglected to address lifestyle changes like getting enough sleep, drinking enough water? Are you eating the right foods? Are you taking care of your mental and emotional health? Like these are just steps that aren't being taken beforehand, and then it's like too late almost. Or I mean, I hesitate to even say that because I think anyone can get back from it, but I mean, if you don't have the money to do it and you don't know how, then it can be a really difficult challenge, like a battle for people to try to figure that out, you know? Yeah, so I don't want to talk about like all just the issues, like that is just like the baseline, like what I think the kind of like problems are going on with the whole healthcare system. But I did want to talk about some solutions. So again, as I've kind of covered a few different things. There's a lot of things that go into wellness and being well. It's not just one thing that gets a person better. I mean, I guess in some cases, if you just have one imbalance, then that's just what needs to be corrected. But overall, like, wellness is the mental and emotional aspects of a person. It is the spiritual aspects of a person that's so completely just not even addressed, I feel like, in the society today. I mean, it seems like people are really scared to like open up those doorways to like accepting that that can be a thing, that the spiritual healing can happen, energy healing is possible. And like I had just mentioned, the mental emotional health, like mental health is such a stigma. There's a lot of advocacy for it now, actually, so it's becoming less of an issue, or less of a stigma, but obviously there's still stigmas around it. Like, say for example, for women, like I feel like a lot of women are repressed, and I think that's actually a big reason why a lot of women have IC, because I know for myself, like I have like a lot of repressed emotions within me, and I think it's manifesting physical issues. And then for men, it's like they're actually kind of repressed too, and in a little bit of a different way. Like it just seems like they're able to express like their anger and frustrations and stuff, and that's like, that's just being a man. But when a girl does it, she's bitchy or something like that. But for them, they can't like cry, or they can't just show any like signs of weakness, or stuff like that really needs just to be thrown out the window, because it's just, people need to be able to express themselves however they feel that they need to, acknowledge the emotions, process them, and release them. Another thing, physical aspects of wellness. So a lot of people are sedentary these days. I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about that, because I think it kind of speaks for itself. Everyone knows that you should be moving your body and getting your lymph system going, and it doesn't mean that you have to like go jogging every single day. If that's something that you absolutely hate, like find some sort of physical activity that you love. Maybe you want to take a dance class, maybe you want to do some yoga, maybe you want to do like jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or something like that. Like find something physically active that you absolutely love, or try out something and get your body moving. And if you have to work up to it, fine. Like, start off with going on, like, nature walks. Which brings me into, like, I mean, how disconnected are we from nature, even? Like, we're just completely surrounded nowadays by technology and stuff like that we barely get outside and breathe fresh air and are around trees and animals, and feeling that, like, grounding with the earth. Like, that is huge, I think, especially in cities nowadays. I know for myself, like, I think once I get my own place, I'll want something a little bit closer to nature or the ocean or just something like that. So, and then nutritional, like dietary health. So, I think that's something these days that is so underappreciated in society. And people don't even realize how helpful it would be to cut out so much processed foods, cut out like excess amounts of animal products and stuff like that, because people are eating way too much like meat, dairy, cheese, eggs, stuff like that, and processed foods, instead of eating vegetables and fruits, and maybe a little bit of like nuts and seeds and stuff, like things that are good for you, healthy for you, that come from the earth, that are organic. So, it's been proven actually that dietary changes can be beneficial and can even reverse disease, like on a plant-based diet. So, some of the case studies that I was able to look up for my paper included one guy who had diabetes, and he was able to reverse his diabetes. Like, even his doctor said that from his testing. He was able to reverse diabetes with a plant-based diet. And then there was another guy who did yoga. So he didn't have diabetes, but he had issues walking. So he had these different, it was assisting aids for him to walk, because he was a paratrooper that had to jump out of airplanes all the time in the Gulf War, so he had really hurt his knees and his spine, and it put a lot of pressure on it. And for years, doctors told him that he would never walk unassisted again. That's just how he would be. But then he ended up trying this specific yoga. I can't remember the name of it right now, but he did this workout, and eventually he was able to not only like walk unassisted, but he was able to walk again, run again, and um, and even do like headstands doing yoga. So, I mean, he was able to totally rehabilitate his body, even when doctors said that it wasn't going to be possible for him to do that. So, he was able to completely change around his life because he didn't listen to what the doctors were telling him. Because there's negative and ignorant people out there who just don't know any better. You know, not every doctor is going to have the answers for you, right? So, and then two other examples that I did dealt with these two women. So one woman was bipolar, and she went to this spiritual healing retreat and was able to just fully connect with her emotions and connect with herself and be herself, and realize that she was in a very a job that was repressing her, and she was able to quit it. And over the course of 5 years, I mean, when she first went to the retreat, she was bipolar, and by the end of it, she was able to completely change her life, and she didn't have any of those emotional issues anymore. So it kind of just goes to show how there was some things in her life, like she wasn't connecting to nature, she wasn't living her passions and being true to herself, and when she realized those things, and she changed those things, her emotional health improved. It just shows how much like the body, mind, and spirit are all connected, because if you start to get one out of balance, then the others start to go as well. So when you can get everything back in line with itself, then positive healing and change can happen. And my last case study was with a woman. Can't remember her name right now, but she had chronic Lyme disease. She had endometriosis. She had IBS. She had like a long list of health issues that, you know, can, for in conventional medicine, there's no cause, no cure, or maybe there's a cause for it, but there's no cure for it, that you're gonna have it forever. So she tried some radical stem cell therapy that actually healed her Lyme disease for a little while, but then after a few years, her symptoms were coming back, and some of her other health issues weren't aided by that stem cell therapy. So she still kept some, healed others, but then eventually it came back. So what she ended up having to do was like realize that it wasn't an external thing that was going to fix her. It was internal work that she had to do. So she learned different healing techniques through tapping, EFT. Like, I'm not exactly sure which tools that she used, but by addressing those emotional issues and being able to release them, she was able to completely heal herself. She doesn't have any physical symptoms anymore, and she's completely better. So that just kind of goes to show that you just gotta take everything with a grain of salt. You gotta believe in yourself that you can figure out what your answer is. I know for a lot of people in the IC community, it can be really frustrating, depressing, like scary, going through everything that we do have to go through. You don't know if you're going to heal or not a lot of the time. You don't know if you're going to get to the end of it. I know for myself, I've improved so much, like so much from where I was, and I still struggle. You know, I'm definitely not at the end of this, but I know that the end is in sight and that I'll get there. So being able to really open my mind to the holistic view of health by eating good foods, like being on a vegan, plant-based diet, addressing my emotional, mental, and spiritual issues by addressing like physical imbalances, like I have my hips a little tight on the one side and going to chiropractic care. Like, there's so many different things that you can do to help get your body back in balance, and I know that I'm getting there, and I know that other people can too. And if there's someone telling you out there that you can't heal and that that's not possible, like, people know that if someone breaks their leg, that their leg's not going to stay broken, you know, as long as you're not like constantly like like stepping on it all the time, or not getting it placed and set, and getting the proper care that you need to do for that, and resting and giving yourselves good foods to help yourself heal, and treating yourself right. But so I mean, if our bodies can heal our bones, then they can, most definitely can heal other parts of ourselves, as long as we properly address those issues within our body. So I definitely think that there needs to be a change in our healthcare system to, get people to get the government on top of this and get everyone else on board, because we can't continue to go down the path that we're going, or else we're going to just continue to see chronic diseases like rise and rise and rise, and then our medical system is going to be totally overstressed, because we're just going to have so many sick people in the hospitals, and no one who can not like people that don't know how to empower themselves and make the right choices for themselves and get the proper care that they need, So anyways, I hope that this video was educational for you guys, and this is just some of my opinions about what's going on in the healthcare system. But I do wish you guys all the best, and have a great night. Namaste.